Um, I got hired late in the summer of. Can you stop? Late in the summer. Stop. Of 2019. Pretty much like. Ow! Pretty much like a week and a half before school started. I couldn't even start like when new teachers were supposed to start. Because like that's how late I got hired and I couldn't get up my orientation done in time. And that's not necessarily like a fault of the school or even the district. It's just how it was. I just got hired really late, and so I came in late. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to plan, and of course I'm a first year teacher, so I have literally nothing to utilize. I have nothing to make my room look pretty. I have nothing to, make the space a warm and inviting place, like a place that I would have wanted. And I had no money because I'd been working as a substitute, and then I hadn't really been working over the summer, due to having to constantly help with my grandfather, who it turns out was basically slowly passing away. We'll get into that later. So that's the start of this. Is I started late. I came in having no idea what I was doing. I had to move in order to be closer to the job. Like there were already a lot of stressors involved in just starting the job. So we go to the first day, and all the other teachers suggested, stop ripping this part. All the other teachers suggested, let the kids come up with their own rules. That way they feel like they're part of the. Stop. So that way they feel like they're part of creating the social contract, for your classroom, and they are probably more willing to follow the rules if they're part of getting to make them. And that's where the first mistake was, because I don't know, the group of kids I got started out with, we don't want rules, like the only rule is no rules and stuff like that. Like nothing about respect, about kindness to others, about respect for the classroom, respect for me, but they expected respect for themselves. So, I don't know, that's where it started. About 3 weeks in, I am already an anxious mess. I'm basically flying by the seat of my pants every day, which is normal for most first-year teachers anyways. And luckily I had a team who had a lot of materials already, so it was fine. But the counselor for the age group somehow finds me and she's like, how you doing? And I said, not great. And I basically went into her office and I started crying. I started crying because I already felt like I had failed and there was no way I was coming back from this. In the beginning, so many people tried to help me. So many. And I kind of just got to a point. I was also at the point where I was unable to have breakfast in the morning because I was getting sick every morning. And like throwing up and dry heaving at work because I was so anxious to even go to work. I woke up every day dreading going to work. So we're into about September. Still dealing with stress with my grandfather. Still dealing with stress at work. I can't get in to see a doctor about getting on anxiety medication for a month. I couldn't get in to see a therapist, or no, I had to wait until I had gone to a doctor to get a referral to go to a therapist, which I clearly needed at this point. Also keep in mind, I have dealt with depression and anxiety since I was probably about 14, if not a bit earlier. This just amplified it. Can you quit scratching my blanket? So finally get to the point that I'm taking medication. It's slowly working and allowing me to function, but that's about it. It's allowing me to function. And then October comes, and my grandfather passes away. And I almost at first didn't take any bereavement days because I didn't think that was an option. And honestly, I would have felt guilty leaving my kids with a sub because I just had no control over my classrooms yet. And again, this is common for a lot of first year teachers. But I did end up taking a few bereavement days and just explaining to the kids that, like, I just need time to heal. And went back hoping maybe they'll start to see me as, like, a human, because I deal with human problems. That didn't really happen. And basically I continue to work with a lot of disrespect, a lot of inappropriate comments, a lot of honestly disgusting questions. One of the ones I most commonly got was, Miss, is that a hickey on your neck? Or Miss, you have a hickey on your neck? Because when I'm anxious, I will scratch around my neck and around my, like, chest and collarbone. Nobody wants to see your butt. And it was getting bad. There were times I was constantly called racist. I was at a school with like 70% Hispanic. And then like kind of the rest was a mix of black and white kids. And like some mixed race kids, and I think a few Asians, and I don't think any Native Americans, but anyway, a lot of people would assume that it can't be that hard, they're just kids. Middle schoolers aren't kids in the sense that you think. A lot of my boys, especially, were quite a bit taller than me, and honestly weighed significantly more than me. Even my girls, a lot of my girls were taller than me and weighed quite a bit more than me. And that's not trying to insult the kids, it's just a reality. Anyway, so first semester goes, and I think, okay, we'll get through Christmas break, and we'll start fresh. And by start fresh, I started off worse. I thought I had everything planned out, and I was going to be able to, like, really fix up my classroom, and that wasn't the case. The second semester is where we really start to delve into the levels of hell that I dealt with. The second day back to the semester, I had a kid jump in through my window. Not out, which is interesting. He jumped in to my classroom. I had to do a classroom clear, which I never had to do in any situation. And very anxiety inducing. But we got past that. Next week, I have a girl fight break out in my room, and I don't know if I have any other middle school teachers, or even high school teachers, who have ever dealt with a girl fight. They're worse than boy fights, honestly. As I said, I wasn't going to gender the kids, but that kind of needed to be gendered because you need to understand that girl fights are significantly worse. So yeah, I also then tried to break up the fight in my own classroom. The two male teachers who were right next to me, within, running distance to help, were both not there at the time. So it took a minute of, I had to hit the emergency button. I was trying to get the fight to break up, and again, one of these girls alone weighed more than me, let alone when they're angry and fighting and together. And I'm currently, apparently I was plastered all over Instagram because kids were filming the fight and were filming me trying to break it up. Then, going into late February, I had an incident in my classroom. I had one particular period that was bad. It was just particularly bad. And I had a lot of big guys in that classroom. I was out, rewind a bit. I had a kid make a inappropriate joke. One of the kids was playing the Purge sirens, if you've ever seen the Purge movies. And he made a joke that I could hear that was, "You have 12 hours to rape someone." And I heard that, and I immediately sent him out of the classroom. And another kid made a comment that went along with it, and I sent them out of the classroom. And told them that they were going to get written up, but I didn't want to see them in my classroom right now. In fact, I should have told them I was going to take them to the office when class ended, because that's how close it was. They didn't wait, so I just had to write them up. No, I actually waited till the next day to figure out how I was even going to write that. And so I had to talk to an AP to get that written down. I eventually had to kick the first kid out because I couldn't deal with them. I hit an impasse where every little thing they did, I couldn't get past. Out in the hallway screaming because they had their cell phone out. That's not normal, but I couldn't get past what they had done because of my own trauma regarding that. So I had them move to a different class. Thought we were fine. Then we hit late February. In my 6th period, I was out talking to a kid, and I heard pencils get thrown against the door. And I looked back in the classroom and I said, "Who threw pencils?" And they said, no one threw pencils. Pencils weren't even thrown. If anyone doesn't realize what that is, that would be called gaslighting. It is attempting to convince a person that what they saw, what they heard, what they experienced wasn't real. And again, being in an emotionally abusive relationship, I dealt with that a lot. And that sounds like an extreme word to put that to, but when you're constantly told by kids that something didn't happen, even though it did, you start to really question your sanity and your understanding of reality. And again, when you already have trauma that deals with that, it gets really hard. So I thought it was just the pencils until I started letting my 7th period in, and there's a book, one of the history books, that is covered in glue. I don't know who did it, but it's not usable. It has glue all over it. And I started having another breakdown in the middle of class because I just couldn't comprehend the level of disrespect that I was experiencing, that these kids were doing towards the classroom, towards their classroom resources. I just couldn't comprehend it. And then this is another trigger warning. This has to do with suicidal ideation. So, another warning if you need to skip past this part. The next morning, after this incident happened, after I had a breakdown, probably my 20th by that year, I basically woke up the next morning and I started getting ready to go to work. I started to leave the door to get in my car, and I legitimately thought, if something happened to me on my way to work, would anyone miss me? And that's not active, but it's still concerning because I did drive on a curvy road to get to my job, to get to my school. One lane. It would have been fairly easy to swerve just the wrong way and either seriously hurt or get killed. So I went to the counselors. They've been trying to help me all year. Oh, no, at this point, no. So I tell them that that's what I thought, and I was seriously concerned, and they basically called the county mental health services for me, and someone came to evaluate me. I had to call my mom. I had to call my mom. She had to come get me. I had to take 5 days off of work just to come back remotely okay. And even then I wasn't fully there. I just started to feel guilty that I was taking too much time. But I felt okay enough. Then, so we're hitting March, or what, a couple weeks from spring break. I can make it. I can make it to spring break. I can make it to the end of this year. And then 1 week, this is again my 6th period. And keep in mind that when I was taking my mental health break, because I literally had a true mental breakdown where I had to take time off of work. When I came back, no one tried to make sure I was okay. Really. the counselors did, but my APs really didn't try and check on me. Which is a very dangerous place to be in. I had to redo my observation, which was fine. I had to do it around that time, and I went in to talk with my AP about the observation, and again we talked about the classroom management. And there is not enough classroom management in the world to make people see you as a human being. And that, I think, is the crux of the problem, is a lot of those kids didn't see me as a human being, let alone an adult. But during this conference, I told my AP that there are a lot of times that I just want to die. And I told her that my relationship with my classroom was like being in an abusive relationship. And again, I've already been in one, so I know what it's like. And I said, I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship, and I feel like I want to die. And that wasn't taken seriously when it should have been. And I don't think I've told anyone that, except for my therapist. And I'm still begging for support in that 6th period, because at that point I'm really concerned for my safety. And then I'm proven right a few days later when I am pushed. And I don't mean like a kid accidentally bumped into me. I mean, I felt a hand like this on my shoulder push me. And I whipped around. And I wouldn't normally suggest teachers curse in front of their students, but at this point I did. And I just whipped around and I said, "Who the hell touched me?" Because I felt a sincere push. And all the kids again, "Miss, no one pushed you, no one touched you." Which isn't true. It's just straight up not true. So I call an AP down. And because I couldn't determine which kid had pushed me, nothing was done. And the kids all lied and pretty much banded together and wouldn't fess up who did it. So that was the first assault. And pretty much anytime someone in Texas, or once you're over the age of 10, if you put hands on someone, you're responsible for your actions. So that is assault, and that's not an exaggeration. And then the next week, this incident was on a Monday. This was the week before spring break. I have a kid who's has their phone out, and they're playing a game on their phone, very obviously. And I go to take their phone because it's March and they know the rules. They're not supposed to have their phones out. And I go to take this kid's phone, and he wrenches the phone out of my hand so viciously that it bends my wrist back, and it's so fast that I don't even have time to let go of the phone. It just happens, and I end up getting honestly, I kind of got slammed on the table a bit. Not hard, but enough that I kind of landed on the table. And I was surrounded by a bunch of other boys, a bunch of other students. They all started laughing. And I told the student, expect a referral. So I wrote the referral. I wrote that the student bent my wrist back. and like I can't even like redo the emotion because like it just happened so quickly. But basically, I was on brace the next day. I didn't realize until later that my wrist had been hurt in the incident, so I didn't write that down. But the referral didn't get dealt with until Thursday, and the student got 1 day ISS because they said the word shit. And that made me so mad. I don't want to ruin a kid's life, but they have to be held responsible for their actions, and that's not holding them responsible for their actions. Like, I assaulted a teacher. That's just fact. That kid assaulted and injured a teacher. And then spring break happens, and then COVID happens, and we have to take into 2 extra weeks, and then we decide to keep pushing going back to school back. And basically they decide we're just gonna be closed till next year, which I know COVID has been a big struggle for a lot of people, me and my husband included. But honestly, at that moment, it was the biggest blessing because I didn't have to go back and be physically in danger and mentally in danger like I was. That's sad. And I know the first year of teaching is hard, and I know they say it's supposed to get easier. I sure as hell hope so after a year like that. But honestly, after that year and that lack of support, I'm scared to ever be a teacher again. I have wanted to be a teacher. I have shown signs of wanting to be a teacher since I was 3 years old. And because of my first year of teaching and the lack of compassion and support and accountability that I experienced, I am scared to ever be a teacher again. I'm not a dominating presence. I'm 5'2". I'm like 125 pounds. No, 5'4", sorry. I'm not a dominating presence. If I ever do go back to teaching, I sure as hell will not go back to a middle school. Eventually, I get a call during the COVID break from my principal. And they said pretty much that they're looking at not re-signing me. Because in Texas, pretty much everywhere, if you're a first-year teacher, you're on a probationary contract. They don't have to ask you back. That's why it takes a few years for a lot of teachers to find their first position, to find their, permanent position. And basically, my principal's reasoning was, you're just not happy, so I want to give you an out. And of course, at this point, I haven't had time to reflect on the very grim realities of what I dealt with in my first year of teaching. So I thought, wow, that's really gracious. He's giving me an out. Because here's the thing, I probably would have tried to go back. I would have tried to go back. I would have tried to prove my previous self wrong. I would have tried to prove those kids wrong. And there were some good kids and I didn't want to leave them. I had to. And I realized that now. I realized that I had to let go. I said it's like an abusive relationship. I had to let go. You have to let go and leave that relationship because it hurts you more to stay. And now I look back at that phrase, you're just not happy here. And all I can think now is, yeah, how could I be? How could I have been happy? It's like asking a woman or any person who gets beat or is in an abusive relationship, you just don't seem happy. Of course not. You're getting abused. And you're losing the very sense of yourself, your core, your identity. And that's what was happening. I was losing my core and my identity. I was trying so hard to be a certain type of teacher, be a teacher who could withstand this. But I shouldn't have had to. I shouldn't have had to. I shouldn't have been put in a position where I got assaulted twice and pretty much nothing was done about it. I shouldn't have been put in a position where I had a mental breakdown to the point that I was suicidal, and I expressed it again. I expressed suicidal thoughts again, and nothing was done. I should have never been put in that type of position. No job is worth that. No career, no job, no anything is worth losing all of that over. And I realize that now, and it's taken me a long time to stop putting my job and everybody else before myself. And that's not selfish. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. And maybe people will watch this and think that I'm exaggerating. Maybe people will watch this and think they're just kids. Maybe people will watch this and agree with it. Maybe they'll experience similar things. But I had to film this. I had to tell as much of my story as possible, because if this is happening to any other teacher, if I end up posting this, or this is happening to you at a school currently, no matter what point you're at in your career, just know that it's not okay. It's not okay to be put in a position like this for any job. And I don't know why we keep expecting teachers to be above human and beyond human needs for the sake of their job. And we need to stop teaching young teachers or aspiring teachers in college that kids aren't personally attacking you. Most of the time they're not. But in this case, yes. I was very much being personally attacked. You know, there's a difference between kids being shitty and being a little pain in the asses, and kids being abusive and manipulative and gaslighting you. And again, you might hear that and think that's so extreme to say, but honestly, I've experienced an abusive relationship, and I felt like I was in an abusive relationship again in my classroom. That's my experience. Honestly, I'm impressed if you made it this far. I didn't realize this was going to take me as long to film as I thought. If I end up posting this anywhere, then I guess you'll see it. If I don't, then this is just a diary entry of what I experienced my first year of teaching. And if I post it, I'll put a lot of trigger warnings because this video is going to need it. Anyway, if you listened this far, thank you for listening to me. I really don't care what your opinion of my experience is, because it was my experience, and I'm not exaggerating in what I'm saying. If anything, I'm probably downplaying it. So, anyway, guess bye. Thanks for listening if you did.